Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About It. This is your host, Taylor, and I'm so excited about today's episode. I think y'all are going to be very excited about it as well. We have got Ivan Hall in his house.
Hey. What an introduction. I love it. What's up, Taylor?
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. Also just because I feel like we're buds and it's exciting to have someone that like I've already talked to and that I consider a friend on the podcast for other people to get to know more, because there is so much more that people want to know about you from watching you on Tayshia and Clare's season of Bachelorette. And I think this will be a good place for that.
Yeah, I'm definitely so happy to be here. I've been waiting for my invite. You took long enough, you know? Sheesh. I expected us to be one of the first podcasts.
Okay, I knew that other people would get approval before, and that everyone would want you on. And you know, it's such a weird thing, like Bachelor fam. And I think I definitely have my own like imposter syndrome I try to work through when it comes to all of it. But it's, you know, when people do come off the show, I do want to just try to be as supportive as possible. And a lot of people do end up like using each other. And sometimes that's mutually beneficial, and other times it feels really icky. And I'm like, I don't like people to feel that way. So yeah,
no,
I took my time.
No, I feel that. I appreciate that. The genuine friendship we've been able to build like over the last couple of weeks. So it's been cool.
Yeah, you're like a really, I mean, honestly, just amazing person. And I'm really excited for people to get to know you more here and possibly more in other capacities in the future, but we'll get there. So first, I think probably one of the most pressing questions that people are going to want to know the answer to is around religion. Part of how you left on Tayshia's season of Bachelorette was due to some religious differences that was kind of, you know, brushed over on the show, but people had questions about that. And I think as we've seen Matt's season progress, you know, there's just such a heavy religious focus on the show. And I know you've talked about this a lot, but wondering if you can share with us a little bit about like your own personal experience and journey when it comes to religion.
For sure. Yeah, so what's been really funny and different for me for sure is that I have talked about religion so much, and I'm not even religious, and I never talk about religion really. But like, if you look up Ivan Hall, there's a ton of articles with me because I'm having to do all these interviews and speak about religion now because that came up on the show. But I get it. Yep. I get it. Yeah. The way things ended there on the show was like very ominous the way they happened. So like nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew like what really the religious reason was. And what it came down to was that, you know, it took up until the fantasy suite, but, you know, that gave Tayshia and I to talk a lot more, and we got into details about a lot of different things. And basically she's fairly religious. She's Christian. And I think she came to the conclusion that she really could only envision herself with another person who's Christian and raising kids with another person who's Christian. And for myself, I just identify as non-religious or agnostic. And I'm open to dating anyone of any religion or faith. And I'm also open to letting my kids, you know, like explore other religions and stuff like that. Like that's just the way kind of my mindset is. So, you know, at the end of the day, like, to no fault of her own or mine, really, it just wasn't the right match, I would say. Tayshia did have like the shortest season ever too. So like, like there really wasn't the perfect time to bring that up. And I think that was really probably the soonest time it could have really even come up. So and then, for myself, like growing up, I was, I guess, religious, like as a kid, because my mom was religious and my dad wasn't religious. I don't think he ever talked about it, but I did go to private school. My mom got me and my brother baptized. Didn't know what that meant at the time, but we went through all that stuff. She taught us prayers. I remember I used to pray to God for stuff. But then as time progressed and like I became a teenager, I think, I started to just wonder a little bit more. And that's when my dad started talking to my brother and I a little bit more about religion. And my mom's like faith kind of just faded away basically. And then, and what I always say, the main thing that my parents really tried to teach me was to always be a critical thinker and don't just like take their word or anybody's word for the truth. So that just set me down a path to like research things and look into different religions. And, you know, that's kind of where I arrived just right now, where I'm just, I basically say, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what happens after death and all that kind of stuff, and why I affiliate as non-religious or agnostic.
Mm-hmm. Is there any one religion that you do feel most drawn towards, of any of them?
Of the major ones, I'd definitely say probably not. Because the main thing with religion for me is the dogmatic nature of it, where people like to, count things as incontrovertibly true without really having like facts or hard evidence for me. And that's just so hard for me to get over. But I do like to say that I am open-minded to change. And if anything ever does prove itself to be true to me, then I'm all on board and I'm perfectly fine with that. And, but like nothing's proven itself to be true to me. And another major thing is like anybody who's religious, the majority of the world's not their religion actually. And, they think like bad things are going to happen to them. So like, I just think it's all like really contradictory and whatnot, but I do see value in religion as well with the community aspects of it and like the aspects of like giving hope for people. So it's not just like it's a bad thing, but I definitely see how it could unite people as well, though.
Yeah, it's a way people make sense of life. I mean, life is so wild. We go through so much shit, and religion, I think, definitely helps give people some sense of meaning to that, and it can be really beneficial, but we also see where, it can create a lot of harm at the same time. Yeah.
No, yeah, like one of the biggest things is like, for example, because I've mostly ran across living in the Bible Belt, like Christianity, right?
Yeah.
I like tell myself, I'm like, I would love to think that if I do certain things, I would live for eternity in heaven. Like that sounds like a way better alternative than like me just not knowing. I would love to do that and being able to see like potentially, my ancestors and whatnot. But, that hasn't proven itself to be true to me. And that's kind of why I feel like, I feel like I'm able to potentially appreciate like just life more in a sense, because I don't know what's going to happen. So I try to make the most out of every day. I try to appreciate everybody around me now. Because I don't know if I have something to fall back on later on. But yeah, we're getting a little technical now, but that's just, my stance on it.
Yeah. Well, so I'm wondering how you feel about spirituality, what your relationship is with spirituality.
Can you define that for me?
Ooh. Well, like a sense of your soul and a sense of, to me, spirituality has a very high relationship to like things being interconnected. And in a way, having a sense of faith, having a sense of trust in just the direction and in the way of life. That's not necessarily like specific to a higher power that is a person, more kind of like the interconnectedness of all of our beings.
Yeah, by that definition, I would definitely say I'm spiritual then. Like I'm a big believer in like being positive and like having good thoughts, putting out good energy, and like good things will happen to you. I always try to like be overly positive almost, just because I feel like it works out better instead of the opposite. And I try to never complain about things, just like more positive energy I put out, the more good things will happen to me, I feel like. So definitely the eternal optimist for myself.
Okay. I like that. All right. It is time for a short break right here because, y'all, we got a new sponsor of the podcast, and very, very excited about this one because this is like a practical and almost kind of necessity. So we're going to talk about hydration here, okay? The new sponsor of the podcast is Hydrant, and it's a refreshing drink mix powder made with 4 key electrolytes. Okay, we got sodium, potassium, magnesium, and zinc. And magnesium is like, I know I need more magnesium. And it's made with real fruit juice powder and no artificial sweeteners or synthetic colors. None of the nonsense, just all the good stuff. And also they have, for an extra boost, you can try Hydrant Immunity, which has got vitamin A, B6, B12, C, and D, which we all like some good vitamin D. Let's be real, okay? I'm in Seattle, all right? We're lacking some sunshine over here right now. And it's also got ginger and turmeric, 2 of my favorites. It's water meets wellness in a vitamin-packed mixed drink that you can drink hot in all these chillier months as well. And one of my favorite parts about this too, y'all, is that it's backed by 100% satisfaction guarantee. So if you don't love it, guess what? You can just send it right on back for a full refund. And I think that that is a major plus for advertisement. And when I share something with y'all, because I know you might be thinking, well, am I really going to like it? Does it actually taste good? Is it actually going to be good for me or not? And you can take advantage of the offer that we've got here. And if it doesn't work out for you, you really didn't lose anything. So you really need to try it out for yourself so that y'all can see what I'm talking about. It's incredible and helps with all the things. So you can try Hydrant today and save up to 20% on your first order. This is a special deal only for our listeners. You can save 20% on your first order. Go to drinkhydrant.com/Taylor and enter our promo code Taylor at checkout. That's DRINKHYDRANT.com/Taylor and enter the promo code Taylor for 20% off your first order. Again, that's drinkhydrant.com/Taylor and enter the promo code Taylor to save 20% off. Thank you so much to Hydrant for sponsoring the podcast. Hydrant is where water meets wellness and where Taylor gets happy. And I love them being a sponsor and I love their product and I want more of it. So, so very happy to partner with them here. And again, I hope that y'all check it out. With all of that said, we can now get right back to the show. So then going on the show, did you feel very optimistic that you were going to find the love of your life?
So I will say I am a numbers guy and like a stats guy. So, so I know that was level setting my head a little bit because, there are 30 plus people that go on the show. Mm-hmm. So whatever, that's a 2 to 3% chance that I get picked kind of to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, I went on the show and it was Clare as the Bachelorette and there is a bigger age gap there. So that's just kind of works against you as far as the stats portions of things and like how relationships normally look like. Mm-hmm. But, the thing I was telling myself and the producers and all the casting producers was that I really am open to any race or age. I had dated somebody who was exactly Claire's age when I was like 25. So that was even a bigger age gap. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, my parents have like a very like non-traditional relationship where, my dad's Black from South Side of Chicago, like from the hood. And then my mom's from like a third world country, grew up with nothing in the Philippines. And on top of that, they have a 17-year age gap between them. Mm. And they've been married for 31 years or so now. Mm-hmm. And they've made it work and they love each other unconditionally. So I knew, things were working against me, but going on the show, I knew that you never know what could happen, really. I could find love. And then in addition to that, I knew I would be able to have the time of my life and do things that challenge myself in ways where I've never been challenged before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. For me, going on the show, I was like, I'm probably not going to end up with this person if I really look at everything. But it could be a cool experience and challenging myself in a few areas of my own personal development and my own personal growth.
I felt like you and Nick were the perfect match, though. Real missed opportunity there.
Ivan. Oh, goodness.
I kid.
So one of the things that people, I feel like, always say going on the show is that they're like, I'm just ready for marriage. I'm ready for marriage. I'm ready mm-hmm. for a relationship. What's your take on that phrase? Is that something you resonate with?
To a certain degree. The way you just said it, it makes it seem like somebody's trying to rush into it. And for myself, like...
Maybe that was like my own bias of like the stereotypes people put on the women that go on the show being like desperate and needing marriage and all of that. So maybe it's more like I'm in a place where I'm really ready for marriage. Instead of, I'm just ready. I'm ready for marriage.
Gotcha. Fair enough. No, I mean, that's kind of my mindset. I do feel like I am in a good place and ready for marriage, but like I am by no means going to force or rush anything though. I'm going to let it come to me naturally, whether it happens to me, this year when I'm 28, 29, or if it happens when I'm 35, like I'm not putting a timetable on that at all. When it happens, it'll happen. And I do think I'm ready to be a husband and father though, for sure. And that's, especially fatherhood, that's something I'm definitely looking forward to.
What makes you think that you're ready for those things?
One, mostly, I've got my career in life. I've got my finances in life all set and ready. Mm-hmm. in addition to that, like I see all my siblings starting families, like all my siblings. I have my younger brother, but then I have my older half siblings too, and they have their kids and they get to do things with them. And on top of that, I want my parents to be able to enjoy my kids. My dad's a little bit older. He's 73. So one of the fears of mine is like that he'll never get to meet my kids. And I really want my kids to have a relationship with my dad because he's played such a big role in my life. But yeah, again, I don't want to rush it, but I kind of do almost just because I really want that relationship to happen. I unfortunately never got to meet my dad's mother who raised him, and he would tell me all these stories. And yeah, I just really wish that for my kids.
Yeah, seriously. That makes total sense. I didn't realize that your dad was that much older. He certainly don't look it. So, so good for him. Not that aging is a bad thing by any means, but yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned finances, and I know that's something that you're like very passionate about. I think it's already slightly came through here. You're very like logistical. Can you talk a little bit about your passion for money and like financial preparedness? Like, I think we learned a lot about you on the show, but I think that that piece of your personality and of your interests and passions wasn't something that we got to see on the show. For sure. So I work as an engineer, but I've also like taught classes and mentored people a little bit on like financial literacy, mostly just out of need. I felt like I kind of try to pay attention to like what America's problems are. And, financial literacy is definitely one of those. We got a lot of problems. Yeah, exactly. No one knows. And with money, it's almost like, it's just so strange to me because it's such an important part of your life, yet you're like almost never taught it in school at all. It's like the strangest thing to me. Like you're never taught about interest rates or mortgages or investing. Or anything. It's like, I feel like the system's designed to just put you in debt and keep you there. And yes, that's how it's built. Exactly. And we can say it's working. So, to help combat that, that's why I started to try to help people out, because when I first started working, I finally started coming into some money, making a good living for myself. And I'm like looking around at all my friends who are engineers too. And like, nobody knows what to do with their money. So like, I just started reading and looking at articles and, over time I've been able to get things set up pretty nice for myself. And it's paid huge dividends just in like the 6 years I've been out of college, where I guarantee like I have 3 times the amount of money of guys like who started the exact same time as me, just because I like invested wisely and diversified my portfolio and just did like real simple things that are going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars difference when I'm like 40 or 50 years old. And will really set not only myself up for the future and when I'm like old and, need help, but like my family, hopefully, will be able to benefit from that as well. Yeah. You said part of why you're ready for, becoming a dad is because you got your finances in check. So you ready, it sounds like. I like to think so. And also like financial issues are a big, factor when it comes to divorce and like happy families, happy households. So being able to provide like a stable, income with, meals and whatnot is really crucial for success in a relationship and family. Yeah. Is that at all influenced by how you were raised and how you grew up? 100%. So yeah, my parents, I'd say I grew up upper middle class. My dad had like a really good job. He was a manager for Hewlett Packard, the computer company, and my mom was a librarian. And, I never had to worry about meals. I got whatever I wanted. Whatever I wanted. If I asked for it, they would probably get it for me. But like they did a good job. Spoiled, you're saying? No, so I like to say I wasn't spoiled. My brother was spoiled though. But they paid for my car, my first car. They paid for me to go to college. And I was just very grateful for all that. And I knew I was like privileged for sure in that regard. And, but them doing that for me allowed me to like not have to worry about, the basic needs in life. And I was able to like kind of just explore other areas, such as like the need for financial literacy. Like even my parents today, like I remember I would ask them a ton of questions about money, but I would recognize they didn't really ever have like good answers for me. Like they were just making it and then they didn't really know what to do with it. I think like maybe like now I kind of annoy them with it. Cause like, I think maybe this year I asked like my parents, like, what do you think your net worth is? And then they both like struggled. And then they both threw out a number. And then in like
a second, I was like, y'all are dead wrong. And they were just so far off. And I was just doing like a quick calculation of all the assets they had at their house. But it's just, but like, I'm like such a weirdo like that. But that's like the stock. That's just like what the typical American is like, though. They just don't know what's going on at all. So, that's why I just have everything down to science right now. And I know everything about my financial situation going forward. And it really doesn't take too much time or effort, really.
All right, we're going to take a short break right here because we've got our regular sponsor with a friendly reminder to take care of yourself, to prioritize your mental health, to know that your mental health matters and that it is okay if you are not okay, because there is help out there. So I want to remind you all about BetterHelp, which is an online professional counseling service. Now, it's not a crisis line. This is legitimate, licensed professional counselors who are specialized in a variety of issues, of problems that you might be experiencing, whether it's trauma, grief, depression, relationship issues, and anything that you share is confidential. It's convenient. You can get matched with a provider within 24 hours. You take a short little quiz, not quiz, but a little survey thing to answer some questions so that they know what it is that you're looking for. And then they match you with someone, and it's free to change counselors if it doesn't feel like a good fit. But a lot of people are using this. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are actually recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So if you are a provider, a licensed professional counselor, maybe hit on that BetterHelp if you're looking for some extra work. But as a listener of this podcast, y'all know I'm going to hook you up with a handy dandy discount. So you can get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/talkaboutit. You can join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/talkaboutit. And now we can get back to the show. Now, how important is that for you of equality in someone that you would want to spend your life with, like their own literacy of that? A lot of people had questions on like what you're looking for in a woman and like, what you would want in your partner. And I'm wondering how financial literacy plays a role in that, given that that's something you're super passionate about. We talked about the religion piece, and it sounds like you're pretty open-minded and flexible on that end.
Yeah, that's a great question that I haven't really thought too much about, actually, as far as the financial literacy piece. Because I kind of always imagined myself taking the reins in that area, I would think. But
like being a provider and like caregiver financially?
Well, just also, I mean, if my wife makes more money than me, that's completely fine too. But as far as like managing our money properly and setting all that stuff up, I like enjoy doing that. But if I found somebody who likes doing that too, that'd be some real synergy there, and I think that'd be great. But if not, that's fine. I definitely have like weaknesses too, so hopefully they're strong in those areas as well.
Yeah.
But as far as like my partner, like I think the main thing I look for is someone who just has like a really big heart and very empathetic. That's like the number one thing I need, because that's how that's what I think about myself as well. And like, I really want to be able to give back to people in the world later on in life. That's going to be a big part of my life. Like when I'm in my 40s and 50s and like well established, I want to have charities. I want to do things that really make a difference. And, I don't want everything to just be about making money my entire life.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of one of the questions that someone submitted here in terms of giving back. Someone asked, I thought this was a great question. Your thoughts on gender privilege and being an ally to non-male identifying people of color. And you just mentioned giving back and wanting to, support communities. And I'm wondering how that plays a part for you at all, if that's something that you've thought of, kind of what your thoughts are on that question.
The gender privilege part.
Yeah.
Supporting. So I mean, there's definitely a gap there, right? For sure. I definitely support like equal pay and all that kind of stuff, because that's, in this country, women are definitely held down and held back in a lot of regards. And that comes from, this patriarchal system we've built. I was talking to somebody, I think maybe my dad or my brother or something about this recently, where I was like, in positions of power, we definitely need at least 50% women, in my honest opinion, because women just like it's kind of in their nature. Generally, this is very generally speaking, but they're like more caring and empathetic and don't want to go to war as much. Generally speaking, not just And I think that's something that people started to adopt more so in the Scandinavian countries in Europe. And I think it's really bearing fruit because it's thinking about things through a woman's perspective instead of always from the man's perspective, which is crucial when it comes to lawmaking and figuring out how to solve issues.
Yeah, so, especially when these things are going to impact women.
For sure. I 100% think like all positions of power really just need as much diversity as possible. Women, men, religious diversity. I saw a stat the other day where 23% of the country of the country is unaffiliated or non-religious, but there was only one person who claimed to be out of like 450 congressmen to be non-religious. That's way underrepresented in Congress. So it's that plays into the fact where like diversity is needed on every level, everywhere, in order to get the best results.
Yeah. You smart. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that. That's fucked up.
Blew my mind. I'm telling you, blew my mind. I was like, one person claimed it. That's crazy. Now, granted, I will say there's a lot of people who just do it just to say they are something because they know they need that for the votes. But either way, yeah.
And you mentioned religious diversity and I think kind of racial diversity as well and gender diversity. So I want to bring this back to Bachelor world for a sec.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's you never escape it. What are your thoughts on the lack of religious diversity and your experience within like the franchise thus far in terms of both racial and religious diversity?
So when I first got casted on the show, it was one of those things where like I knew about the show, but didn't like fully like know about it. Like people in my circle, my guy friends aren't watching The Bachelor or Bachelorette. No? So that caused me to go down this like path of like researching because like I needed to see what the show was about. And, and then all the stuff happened, really in that May, June timeframe. And that really like started the Batch Diversity campaign and all that kind of stuff with pointing out all these issues.
Matt.
Yeah, exactly. When they announced Matt, pointing out all these issues in Bachelor Nation. And what's funny is like very early on in the casting process, and I even brought this up to the casting producers directly. I was like, hey, I'm half Black, half Asian. That I like check 2 boxes for you guys, if we're being honest here. Like it's and because they lack diversity, of course, as far as Black men, but they really lack diversity as far as Asian men. Asian men are way underrepresented in Bachelor Nation.
Super.
So, and I sent a tweet out actually earlier this year where I said I was the first Blasian person in the history of the show in like my quick research, and nobody's even been able to challenge that yet. So like out of hundreds of people, there's never been somebody who's been half Black, half Asian on the show. So I think it was, I thought it was of great value to the show too, because like people got to see like what my family looked like and that dynamic, and that's not something you typically get to see, but that's kind of stuff and those kind of families are happening in America every day. And then to the religious diversity portion, it's definitely leans heavily Christian is what I've realized now, very heavily Christian. I will say the leads who are Christian, if that's something that's important to them, then I definitely understand them, fully like showing that on camera, because that's just a part of who they are. I've been asked about Matt doing his prayer. I'm like, that's Matt. That's what he needs to do. That's best for him. Yeah. Now, like stepping back and looking at all of this stuff from like a zoomed out view. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they said maybe Ari was atheist. Maybe I think he's the one guy. I want to say that's the only person.
No idea. Not sure if you're aware of this, but I'm not very fond of him.
You know what? Now I think about it, I don't think you are. Yeah, from what I remember, I feel like yes, yeah. But I think that was the only guy who was non-religious. But
didn't know that.
So to see it going forward, and it doesn't have to be non-religious people. Like I did say, 23% of the country is non-religious, so that'd be great to see more leads who are non-religious, but anything Muslim, Jewish, whatever. That'd be great. Like, that'd be great insight for myself personally, because I don't know too many, like, let's say Jewish people. They're not as prevalent down here in Dallas as they are like in the Northeast, and see what those love stories look like as well. So I think all that adds extreme value for the franchise and really for the viewers as well.
Yeah. I love that you were like, I'm of high value here. Casting.
No, like I'm such a stats guy. I was like, well, I kind of check 2 boxes. This actually works out. So like I'm such a logical thinker when it comes to things. So,
well, I mean, you're not wrong. So I was at least confident, in that. And it was also factually true. All right. We're going to take a short break right here because we've got a very fun new sponsor of the podcast called Best Fiends. And I'm excited to share this with y'all because almost every time I see Naya, who's like basically my little sister, she's the only person that I see in my little bubble. And every time I see her, we are playing Best Fiends. It's like a casual mobile puzzle game, but we can't put it down. Every time I'm over there, she wants to play it, and she loves the characters and, increasing to each new level. I play it sometimes too when I'm home by myself and getting ready for bed and just want something to do that's like fun and casual and playing games because I love playing games. So it's a really fun way to just kind of unwind. They have literally over 1 million downloads, and it's 5-star rated mobile puzzle game that is honestly just a must play. So once you download Best Fiends, you really won't be able to put it down. You'll just keep telling yourself, just one more level. I'm just going to keep going. I know I can get to this next level. So I highly recommend that y'all check it out, and you can download it for free on Apple App Store or on Google Play. And that's Friends without the R. So Best Fiends. Best Fiends. It's very fun. Honestly, with no exaggeration, there's over 5,000 puzzle levels and counting. So the fun really never ends, whether it's with, a little friend of yours, with a child, or just with yourself, because adults need to play too. And we are very worthy of having that playtime too. So anyway, hope that y'all download Best Fiends for free today on Apple App Store or Google Play. That's Friends without the R. Best Fiends. Anyway, with that said, we can now get back to the show, and maybe you can download it afterwards and have some fun listening or playing it after you listen. All right, now we can get back to the show. You mentioned that like along the way, the uprisings were happening. People were, predominantly white people were all of a sudden becoming woke to the issues of Black people and actually listening a little bit for a small period of time to Black people. And hopefully we see that continue. But, your conversation on the show with Tayshia related to the Black Lives Matter movement was really, really special. And I think people had a lot of feelings, a lot of opinions about it. But honestly, it's not something that the show would have ever showed in the past, if it even happened in the first place. So just the pure fact that it was on national mainstream cable TV, I think was powerful. What was the feedback that you got from that? And what was it like for you to be vulnerable in that position? And that was something like really personal and yeah. For
sure. So one, I'll start with the feedback. The feedback from that conversation was amazing. I remember actually like right after that date happened, some of the EPs came up to me, executive producers came up to me, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that was the best date I've ever seen." And I was just like shocked, and they were like shaking my hand. I'm like, they
were shaking your hand?
Yeah, like I'm not even joking. I was like, I just talked. Like, I don't know, like, what are we doing here? But I think to put it in context though, that time when I had my one-on-one with Tayshia, that was in probably late July-ish. And I was in the bubble since like maybe mid or early July.
Yeah.
So there was a lot that was happening in the world when I left, a whole lot. And then on top of that, all that stuff that was happening, like made me like think about things more than I ever did in the past. And it really made me check myself because like my brother, for example, and I brought it up on the show, like he's brought up correctional officer brutality and police brutality. I know my dad's talked about it with me before too. And, some of my first thoughts back in the day, whenever my brother would talk about things that happened to him in prison, I would sometimes ask him like, Gabe, like, what did you do to cause that? And, and that's where I just felt really, really bad. But I learned from it for sure, because it just reminded me of like the George Floyd situation where a lot of people are just asking like, what did he do to cause it, instead of just realizing that what happened was dead wrong and shouldn't be happening. So it just kind of happened. That conversation happened organically because we were just talking about our families. And then there was just such that, like close tie with my brother in that type of situation with, prison and police and all that kind of stuff. And additionally, I just definitely needed to like hear from Tayshia too. What her thoughts kind of were, and like understand better where she came from and how all of that stuff affected her. Cause I know it's affecting everybody tremendously. So yeah, that's how it all came about. And I'm really glad America got to see that, because it really was just a regular conversation. That date, more than any other time, I felt like it was just me and her. They did a really good job of like separating themselves, like the cameras and all that kind of stuff that night. And I think it was actually really valuable that we had like the game night portion of it too, because I think it just made both of us really comfortable with each other, just like drinking, having fun, doing a lot of just silly stuff. And then it really allowed us just to get that comfort, build that initial comfort to where we felt like we could talk and open up to each other a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, in general, just from my conversations with you, I feel like you are very easy to talk to and very easy to like open up to. And the conversation that you both had, I think, was one of the very few dates where it actually felt like a real genuine connection, where it felt like you were actually getting to know both people, and it was an actual back and forth that I don't think we always see on the dates. So I definitely think, it makes sense that they actually gave you privacy and they gave you space on that date. The fact that they were shaking your hands afterwards, I think also goes to show like that they were probably so touched by that, because they also probably haven't even been exposed to those kinds of conversations and those kinds of experiences from people who don't necessarily maybe look like them. And I don't know if these were producers who were white or who were black or whatever, but, I'm happy that they gave the respect that conversation needed. And I think also there was a bit of kind of that input from being biracial. Tayshia had kind of spoke about growing up with people that didn't look like her, AKA being the only black girl, AKA growing up around only white people. And, I know you said that you've dated people from like many different backgrounds. And so you've been exposed to people, having different experiences with that. But, what's your experience been like being biracial, being Filipino and black, and how have you kind of experienced that through dating?
So like I did actually grow up in a like very white area as well, in North Dallas. And then I also went to like a very white college. Like it was 5% black people at my college. So I've always been used to meeting people kind of like Tayshia, where I feel like they've always kind of grown up in a bubble to a certain extent. Or people that are like, like the type of black people that only have like white friends. So with my dad, though, like he instilled in us from like a young age, like, hey, son, you're black. You're going to be viewed as black. Watch out. Don't do certain things, that kind of stuff. So like it was always on my mind. And sure, like I think like any biracial person, you kind of struggle a little bit with your identity. But I think fairly early on, I was able to just embrace it and appreciate myself for being unique. Some people, try to make fun of you for being too black or being too Asian, and or the other, more common is like when with black and white people being too white, being too black. So it's like a constant struggle we always go with, but it's like, we are both those things, and, you kind of just embrace it and just appreciate yourself for being a unique person. But as far as my dating goes, like I've made it a point for myself to purposefully date people of all races and backgrounds and cultures. I've tried to do that like throughout my 20s. I didn't want to be closed-minded or closed off to anybody. I wanted that experience because I think experience is the best way to learn. And that's like another reason that I think feeds into the fact that I do think I am like ready for marriage or a long-term relationship, really now more than ever. I'm always continuously learning. I'm always trying to learn more about people. But that added value of dating a ton of different types of people really comes in handy now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. When I recorded the Being Biracial series, one of the things that some of the guys had expressed of being part of their experience being biracial was a certain level of I literally always fuck up this word every time I try to say it. A certain level of fetishization.
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Fetishizing. Fetishization. Right, a certain level of being fetishized. Yes. There we go. And I mean, this is typically from white women, but they also do receive it from other biracial and mixed race women. And I'm wondering if, that's something that you've experienced, whether it's with dating or with, any kind of sexual relationship, of feeling like your novelty because of your race when it comes to people, or if you've been like objectified in that way. Cause I know like that came through when we did that episode.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, this is a kind of funny one, cause I just was talking to my new friend, this is a comedian guy named Michael Yo. And he's he's like a famous comedian, and he's got this funny clip where he's Blasian too, like me, where he talks about being a starter black for white women because we're like half black. We're half black, but not fully black. So they could like dip their toe in before they go, full black, which I thought was, that was just an all humor and fun. But yeah. And then even from like black women too, though, it's like, they'll look at me, they'll be like, oh man, you've got that good hair, just because like my hair's straight. And I'm just like, listen, my hair's not good just because it's straight. It's just my natural hair. Like, because that immediately puts like downing themselves and downing black men for having curly hair. So like, I don't like it when they do that too. But a lot of people are just with me just because like, black women will be like, your hair is straight, you're a little bit more light skin. Like, I do not like it when people, objectify me like that at all.
Yeah, the colorism. It's inherently anti-black, and those statements of like, oh, you got the good hair, like, or even for me, I have white girl hair. Exactly. When people make comments on like that being good, it's like, that's anti-black, and for now I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I cringe all the time when I hear that kind of stuff. I just cringe. But yeah, it's just like in people's psyche since they're babies, really, like I'm sure you've probably seen that experiment where like, you show two like toddlers, a black doll and a white doll. They're always, and you ask them like, which one's prettier? They'll say the white doll almost every time. I did that to my niece and her cousin. And when they were like maybe 3 or 4, and man, that's exactly what happened. And they didn't even know why. They were just like, I don't know. They were it's just prettier. Yeah. But it's just built in us since we're kids. So like it's like we're having to try to unlearn everything all the time, and then also trying to like make sure like when I have kids, teach them that like black skin's beautiful, curly hair is beautiful, just to combat that really.
Yeah, it's a lot to unlearn. I'm wondering if there's anything specific that you can think of that you've had to unlearn in that area, whether it be personally or generally speaking. You did grow up in a little bit more of a white focused area. And even like to that experiment, even though it's like, even when we say people who grew up in, a little bit more of a white bubble, it's like the whole fucking everywhere is a fucking white bubble.
Yeah, because the TV's not built. Yeah, exactly. Like TV's not built for us. For sure.
So you have to intentionally like search and surround yourself in blackness. And I'll definitely say that it's not true for everyone. There are certain people who are completely, their whole life is around blackness. But I mean, that's something that I've had to process myself. So I'm wondering if there's anything you've had to kind of unlearn in that area.
I think especially just because of the area I did grow up in, like definitely the whole like darker skin versus lighter skin situation. That's just, I know I was definitely part of the problem too, or like I wouldn't maybe go out, get as much sun because somebody might be like, oh, you're too dark now and that kind of stuff. So now it's just like, I just embrace it as what it is. Like, I just appreciate myself for who I am. That really like messes with a kid's mind too, I realized. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends, I remember he was like, he's as dark as could be, this black guy, right? And the amount of stuff that people used to like say to him, it probably made him feel so bad growing up. But like, that doesn't define who you are at all, just your skin color, you know? It's just like basic human, I don't know, compassion we need. I don't know. It's just, it's just crazy to think about how much skin color has played a role in history and even today. Yeah, it's just crazy to me.
long time.
Exactly. It's absolutely crazy.
Part of this is probably going to go down as like one of my favorite episodes of all time that I did with Sabrina Strings, the author of Fearing the Black Body. And it was like literally white men like developed and created even the concept of race, right? Like that race is literally like a social construct. And it's just like, yeah, man, what was it like before that? I don't know. I could go on a whole thing about it, but
we almost wouldn't know because if you go back far enough, our history books get erased and stuff. So nobody tell the stories. But yeah, we're going. Exactly. So many problems. Jeez.
I know. One that I do want to touch on here, because you briefly kind of talked about your brother, and your brother was like a really big part of the show, and you like broke my heart on your hometown when he surprised you, and I was like, oh my God, I've been so happy.
I was.
You were so happy when he got there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the importance of all that?
Yeah, for sure. So how that all happened really was like Chris Harrison came in that week, or actually, let me back it up. Earlier in the season, they asked me like, who would I want to come for hometowns? I was like, I need my mom there, my dad there, my brother, and my niece, please. But I kind of knew my niece's mom might not let her come if COVID is happening still. But so that's who I like was in my mindset for when I got that rose to go to the hometowns. I was like, okay, this is who's going to be here. And then Chris Harrison came in and told each of us who was going to be here from our families. And for me, he just said my mom and dad were going to be there, and then and stopped. And though I was happy, like my mind instantly actually went to like a very dark place, just because it's like PTSD from the past. It really still gives me like stress and anxiety now, where I am always wondering, like, did something happen to my brother? Like before he went to prison, it wasn't just like he was all good, then just went to prison. It was like, no, he was getting arrested. He was getting in fights. He was going to drug rehab. We would go with him, and things would happen. I'd get a call in the middle of the night to go like come save the day basically, or pick him up, and he's like all bloodied up or whatever else. It's like crazy stuff happening, and like some crazy situations I've been in to help him out. And then even being out of prison for the last year and a half, like there's been, several things that have happened, and he's still struggling, with addiction, mostly alcohol addiction now. And it's just a constant struggle. So like when I get these, any kind of like bad news or no news, I guess, from my brother or about my brother, then it just freaks me out. So, and then I knew I had to and then I had to wait a couple of days too. So I was just like all this built up, just anticipation of like what happened. And like, cause the thing with me and my brother is I know he was going to be there for me. So the fact that they didn't tell me he was going to be there, I was shocked. And I was just like, oh boy, something definitely happened. And then, just not to pile on, but even just before I like gave my phone up for the show, my brother did send me this like, pretty sketchy text where he was just like, hey, Ivan, no matter what, just finish the show. Don't worry about me no matter what happens to me out here. So like that was just like it still honestly gives me chills, because like I just get scared, because I am that protective big brother. I am like the guy who in my family who like helps resolve all those things. So just knowing I wouldn't be able to be there, and he wanted me to finish this no matter what happened, it just freaked me out. So we get to we get to hometowns, and then when I was talking to my parents there, I thought they were about to tell me something like very bad happened, and all I could think about was just telling myself not to cry, and make sure I'm there for my mom, because I knew she was about to break down. Like I just wanted to be strong for her there and just comfort her and make her feel good. So I was just trying that's all I could think about. I was like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Comfort mom. That's it. And I was like so locked in on them, because that's like when I thought they were about to say something.
And that's the role that you've typically had to play with them within your family. That's typically been the role that you've played.
Like that protective big brother role. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, of like, pull yourself together. Don't let, mom kind of see that part. Like, you're going to be strong and be there for her. Okay.
For sure. Yeah, I've always tried to, like, my mom's much more emotional than me. So, like, things freak her out. So, like, I would have to tell her things are okay, even sometimes when I know they're not okay, just because I know that's going to cause her stress and anxiety and to cry and all that kind of stuff. And so I'll just kind of bear that for her. My dad was able to do that a little bit as well, too, though. But yeah, and then in that moment, my brother finally comes out. I'm like locked in with my parents because they're about to start talking about him. And then like Tayshia actually pulls my face over and he's like right on top of me at that point. And it was just like such a crazy like whirlwind of emotions. And because I went from this whole like zone of like, don't cry, something terrible is about to happen, to he's right in front of me. And then I was just like, oh my God. And then I was just like, oh, I hate these producers a little bit too. but no, at least they got him out there though. But I was like, oh yeah, they got me. And then, I couldn't hold back the tears. It was like really just tears of joy. And it was funny. There were a lot of previews of that happening and everybody was like, well, Ivan, why are you crying so much? And I'm like, you'll see. Like it's, just wait for it. But no, that was a really, really special moment. That whole hometown was special. I feel like each one of my family members got to shine a little bit too. And they were really the stars of that show, not me.
Your family was amazing, I will say.
They have more. Yeah, my brother has more quotable lines than me by far. Like nobody remembers my lines. People have like 3 lines from him. I'm like, geez, man, just makes me look bad.
And so, I mean, when you were experiencing all of that, like, was that something that you would talk to Tayshia about? Or, if you had a partner, like, would you open up with your partner about that? Like, how do you cope with that stress? And as you said, kind of that like PTSD and that like almost panic that's coming up for you. How do you cope with that when that comes up?
Yeah, honestly, like most of my life, since I've mostly been single, I've had to just deal with that myself. And, honestly, I think I am able to like just bear that burden a little bit pretty well, actually. But yeah, like even with Tayshia before the hometowns, like right before we walked in with my parents, I did tell her, I was like, listen, I don't know what happened with my brother. I'm honestly expecting bad news. And I just wanted to keep her informed to that and in tune with that, just in case she did see like me break down, my mom break down. So she would have some like context of like why that's happening. So I actually did like forewarn her, like, I have no clue why my brother's not here. Like it's freaking me out. So,
well, you tuned her into how you were feeling and what your experience was.
Definitely.
Now you might need support.
Yeah, for sure. And when it comes to having a partner in the future, I definitely will lean on them, and I expect them to lean on me too in like situations where, that can be very emotionally stressful. So,
Yeah. One of the questions that a few people actually submitted, they were wondering how you talked to your brother before coming on the show about sharing his story. You did kind of share, even just now, a bit about his life and some of his experiences and really in terms of how they've impacted you. But people were curious if you talked to him beforehand about sharing his story and what those conversations were like.
For sure. Yeah. It's like I said, my brother and I, we're only a year and a half apart. He's a year and a half younger than me. And we grew up in the same room. We're still best friends and we talk all the time. And my brother, it's kind of just a known thing between us, but he also knew, like, when I went on the show, like we talked about it, like he's like, these things might come up, because in order to like tell a partner or future wife about myself, like I have to tell the story about my brother. That stuff affected me more than anything else has in my life, and like kind of changed my mindset in ways that nothing else has really. So like I have to talk about him. And I think we both like looked at it as like pretty optimistically too, because like I was like, hey man, like if anything, like people will learn from this and can relate. And now my brother, he really wants to help out the guys, like all the relationships he made in prison and all that kind of stuff. And, kind of has a disdain, honestly, towards correctional officers. So me spreading light on that he knows that's more than he would have ever been able to do by himself. And me and him working together over, however many years we want to, on like prison reform and like correctional officer brutality, and like just shining a light on that is going to make an impact, hopefully. So I think that's what gives him like solace in it all. And he's actually very excited about like what the future holds now, for sure.
Yeah. So is prison reform or, defunding police or any of those kinds of things things that you plan or want to share more of on your platform, or become more engaged in advocacy in those areas?
100%. Yeah. I'm kind of like slacking on my social media, but like, yeah, in the investing finance portion, I want to bring that to social media, and then definitely the prison reform tip of things too. And like bringing stories to light, I think would help humanize the prisoners a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Like my brother's story, like the amount of stories I've heard just from like the guys he knows in there, it's just really heartbreaking stuff, like very heartbreaking. With my brother's situation, particularly like when he got beat up by the COs and, they wrote him up and they're the judge, jury, executioner, and send him, 10 months back to high security in a closet with two guys. It's like 6x6 closet. You have 1 hour of free time a day. If that, most of the time you don't get that. It's pure torture. It's pure torture. And, he was cut off from us, and we could only communicate with him through writing. And he honestly went crazy in there to a certain degree, like anybody would. And I like to say it's just like prison system in America is terrible. Like we have the most prisoners, but we're not nearly the biggest country. It's not set up for rehabilitation like at all. Like they may have like a little week program that they barely fund that does next to nothing, but it needs to be much more than that, because all these people are coming back into the real world. And, the additional physical and mental abuse they go through from COs or even the other prisoners is not helping them at all, or preparing them for a better life outside of prison.
And from our culture and our society, because they are so demonized and dehumanized as well. I mean, even if you just highly encourage folks to watch the Kalief Browder story on Netflix, it's absolutely heartbreaking, but it does give you a lot of insight into, what that experience could be like. And it is such an area that I think everyone in our country needs to focus on, because it's a significant fucking problem. And it has so many consequences, like all throughout our systems.
For sure.
So yeah, thank you for kind of sharing a little bit more on that piece. And I'm excited to see kind of things that maybe your brother does in the future, things that you do. We're just getting started. Got a lot of big plans, and really gonna, shake up the audience a little bit. For sure. I have a few last questions here that are, of course, Bachelor focused that people want to hear from you on. Do you have any thoughts on the Dale and Clare breakup as that is panning out this week?
Jeez. That's so new. I haven't talked to either of them. I honestly just feel like it's just unfortunate, really. It's just unfortunate because I know, especially from Claire's side, she just seemed so into it and invested, and that's why she shut the show down basically so quickly. And I really wished them nothing but the best. But, honestly, maybe this is the best thing, though. You never know. Like, they might just not be meant to be together. It's, in all honesty, like, the show is not conducive for building the strongest relationship or, like, figuring that out, like, in that short amount of time. It's tough. It's a tough thing to do without actually being in the real world and seeing how each other lives and all that kind of stuff. So it's just unfortunate. I hope they both find what they're looking for, though.
Yeah. Well, with that point, though, with knowing that the show kind of makes that a little bit difficult, would you go back on then?
Well, I will say, I will say it's a higher rate than me going out to like the bars and clubs, though. Still, I feel like.
Well, I hope you ain't doing that in the first place.
Yeah, true. But for sure. I mean, I've only had one girlfriend, so I mean, got to try something new out. But I definitely would. I think a situation like a Bachelor in Paradise or something like that, where there's like more options, maybe more different types of people. I could imagine that potentially working out a little bit better. And I mean the show. You're not only making like, love relationships, you're also like making like great like friendships too and like other stuff. So like it's it brings so much goodness, and I honestly just had the greatest time of my life pretty much. And my experience from top to bottom was amazing. And like, why wouldn't I do it again? Because my experience has been great. I know in the past it hasn't been the greatest for a lot of people, but for me, I have no complaints. I built a lot of friendships and I'm grateful for it all.
Yeah. Well, on that, people did have a question about one of your friendships.
Oh boy.
I wasn't going to ask it, but now I'm like, okay, well, you just said that. They said, what was his take on Bennett? Why does Ivan side with Noah? So they wanted to know why you were friends with Noah. And I'm like, actually, I guess I have questioned that myself as well. We've talked about that a little bit, but go ahead.
So, okay, in the house, right? It was a much older season, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm 28, so I was actually one of the younger guys. I was like the fourth or fifth youngest guy there, I think. So honestly, it just felt like I was cool with a lot of older guys, but it just felt like the younger guys kind of just banded together a little bit and just hung out more. I don't know, ate together more. So like me, Noah, DeMar, Jordan, I'll throw Riley in there too. He's kind of in the middle. So we just hung out more. And in particular with the Noah Bennett situation, that was a case where, I guess I can't say objectively, but biasly speaking, since I'm Noah's friend, I didn't see Noah like really going after being a jerk to people. I know he caused some drama through some of his actions, but he wasn't like overtly doing anything bad. I saw Bennett being a jerk to people. Like he had asshole tendencies is what I would say. He could be funny sometimes, and you're like, oh, this is a funny guy, like has me rolling, dying, laughing with his character and all that kind of stuff. But then
his character, which is an important
the exactly.
Character.
But then when like he comes and like says something kind of rude to me or says something rude to a producer and gets into it with multiple people, you just start to see like, hey, there's something kind of off with this guy, or I don't know what he's got going on. So that's how I stand by that. Really. Yeah, Bennett. Yeah, and I think we got to see a little bit of that when he tried to come back and tell Tayshia he loves her. Like, granted, I don't know his feelings, but if we're being dead honest, like the guy was being really fake there. So like, it's just like little stuff like that. I don't even want to give it too much time, honestly, just because like I know he's doing what he needs to do, and he does make for good TV for some people and throws like a little spin in there. But just don't bring it towards me, babe. That's it. Like, just don't bring it towards me, Bennett. That's it. Yeah. Like, keep that over there with the other people who want to go jack around. Like, That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense because Noah wasn't doing anything that was mean to anyone else. He definitely might have been annoying or like a little irritating with his actions, but he wasn't like being a dick. So that makes sense. Another question.
How did you? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you feel about Noah and Bennett's 2-on-1 with the emotional intelligence book? We have to put it out there.
All right. So first, I think the character piece is very prevalent. I think Bennett does a very good job of playing the character that he wants to be known as, of being this kind of elitist, very intelligent Kent Clark, whatever the fuck, Superman dude.
Yeah.
kind of character. I didn't think that his whole gifting was very genuine. I don't think that was fully in good spirit of wanting to help Noah at all. I really feel like true disdain for the fact that people associate me with him because of the emotional intelligence piece. And I think the way that I explained it was because I was point blank being asked about it. I was asked to share on, my thoughts on the person and on the questioning of whether or not like it's a good match kind of a thing. I was asked that, which is why I brought it up. Then I was asked, what am I talking about? Which is why I explained it, all while being bulldozed and gaslit and manipulated for 2 hours and yelled at and name called. But I think with the Bennett situation, he was literally being condescending. He was literally talking down to Noah, and doesn't even necessarily have a degree in counseling, but he has the Harvard hit behind him. He did give a thorough explanation of emotional intelligence, which I was like, yeah, that's all correct. But like, ain't nobody asked you to go down this route, bro. Like, nobody asked you for this. Yeah. And Noah, like, this is just not good.
Jeez.
And
it's the self-awareness piece for me.
Yeah. And then for Tayshia to call attention to the tension, and then he's like, well, what tension? I wasn't aware of there being tension. It was like,
it made no sense.
bro, what?
We all see it. I'm like, it makes no sense. What are you talking about, man? Are you in the same room?
Yeah. So I definitely did not, that was not an enjoyable scene for me. And I do not want to be associated with that period.
Got it.
I really hope that's not on Paradise, but I'm sure it will be. Is there anyone that you want to see on Paradise, Ivan?
I want to see all my best friends from the show on there. I'm going to play it coy here, not really answer, but, there's a lot of beautiful women out there, hoping to see all my guy friends, though. That'll be cool, too. Just hang out.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you? What about yourself?
I think it would be wonderful to see you on there. I think it'd be wonderful to see Riley on there. I think it'd be wonderful to see DeMar because we were robbed of airtime from him.
My boy.
Yeah, and he's so stylish.
Oh, for sure. Like swagging on all of us for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else.
Brendan.
Ivan, you know what? Yeah, he fine. I think he'd be great on Paradise. He definitely real fine. Who was I just going to say? Joe. Was that his name?
Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe.
Yeah. Dr. Joe. Yeah. I think he'd be great on there. Yeah, I feel like I would need to see images of everyone. But
yeah, I gotcha.
Anyone that you are thinking from the current season that you think would be good for Bachelorette?
For Bachelorette?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be tough. Last week I was like, oh, Sarah looks like a Bachelorette, but now she's gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I honestly did think that.
Okay.
But yeah, now I wouldn't say that. Abigail potentially, I think would be a good Bachelorette. It seems like, and then Bree and Serena had those one-on-ones. I think they did a great job. So potentially any of those three would be the front runners for me right now, at least for the Bachelorette.
Or Paradise.
I'm saying nothing about Paradise, from that perspective. I'll let everybody float their ideas out there and we'll see what happens. But
oh, goodness.
Yeah, they're quality women, though.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of quality women on this season, and I want to see them with some fine men. I want to see them with some real quality men like yourself, because some of the dudes that we cast on the show, not we, they cast on the show, I'm like, what are you doing? You already know how I feel.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, they did a great job with casting you. I'm so happy that you were on the show, and I'm so happy that you had a great experience and that people were able to actually authentically get a connection with you and be able to, learn about your life in a way that was very, I think, relatable, very authentic, and really helpful for people as well. Very healing, I'm sure, for some as well. And that you just had a good experience, because I mean, like you said, not everybody does. And so I'm just very, very happy that you did, and that I got to meet you. That's one of the fun things about being part of this weird ass family, is that sometimes you get to meet some really cool people along the way. So I'm really happy to have you in my life, and really excited to see where all of this wildness takes you.
For sure. Yeah, no, I'm very appreciative for you having me on your podcast, for one, but then also just providing support throughout the season as well. You were one of the few people that reached out to me while the season was going on, and anytime somebody did that, honestly, it just made me feel 10 times better, because I was like, okay, cool. The people who've done this before are supporting me, and it made me feel accepted, I guess, to a certain degree. So thank you for that. And it's I feel like I could talk to you for hours, really, almost all the time whenever we talk. So
it's usually a few hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure. Yeah. I think we'll probably be friends for a long time. So
yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah. It's and then I think we can both both probably be like a little bit more optimistic with the direction of, the Bachelor world too, just with our season and with Matt's season potentially here going forward. And hopefully we keep seeing change and are able to help be driving forces with that. Me starting now, you've been doing that for sure, you and Rachel and others. I plan to, hop on board and push for change as well.
Yeah, definitely. I do feel like this, I don't know about Bachelorette yet, but I do feel like this next season of Paradise is probably going to be one of the best seasons that they filmed, just because I do feel like in the last few seasons, really from the literally last one to this one, and hopefully with Bachelorette, like there have been some really quality, amazing people casted to where it does feel like there was more representation for different things. And it's, I think, gonna all interact in Paradise and be very entertaining for folks to watch. If people want to follow all the things that you're doing and keep up with you, where's the best place they could find you, and all the fun stuff? Yeah. So everybody could just follow me, on social media at Ivan B. Hall, B as in boy. I got a website coming up too, but you could just see all that from my Instagram mostly or Twitter. Follow the journey. It's going to be fun. Got a lot of stuff coming out, and who knows, like I might still be in this Bachelor world going forward or not if I find a girlfriend, but we'll see. Oh yeah. That was one thing we didn't get to.
I will just let it go.
You mentioned your Twitter, but you didn't say your Twitter. What's your Twitter? Oh,
my Twitter is Ivan B. Hall 8. And then everything else is Ivan B. Hall on TikTok and Instagram. And my website's ivanbhall.com. But it's not up yet, but it's coming. Working on it.
All right. Well, and also, I mean, you mentioned that you might be a part of Bachelor World for a little bit longer. Good luck not being a part of it, even when you have a girlfriend. Even when that day comes for you, if it's before Paradise, if it's after Paradise, if it's during Paradise. Then either way, good luck, because it stays with you. It really does.
Gotcha.
But you can use it for good, which I think you already are. So
yes, I think a few of us, like myself and especially like Joe, like it gives us a platform to really talk about things that we're passionate about, and I think that's so powerful, and to being able to impact and help people out. And it's definitely expediting all of that for me, for sure, because that was something I was kind of pushing off till a little bit later, but definitely expedites it for me, and looking very excited to the future, what the future has. So yeah.
You were going to do that in your 40s and 50s, right? In the timeline of the
timeline kind of, it moved up a little bit. Like I always wanted to like help out a little bit, but like I was mostly focused on, building my businesses and stuff in my 30s, but like, and then like in my 40s and 50s, being able to be really settled in and financially stable, and then being able to like focus 24/7 of my time and making that like my main priority and job. But now I can mix that in a little bit more now, for sure, with this platform.
Yeah. Nice. Well, ladies, Ivan B. Hall, go slide right on in there. He's got his finances together, is ready for all the things. Is a fantastic, fantastic human. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show and sharing all the fun things with us.
Of course, Taylor. Anytime. Got to do it again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, that does it for today's episode. Thank you so much for making it all the way through and keeping your ears, your hearts, and your minds open. It would mean so much to me if you could take a second or two after listening to this episode to leave a review on iTunes and let me know what you're enjoying about the show. I love reading, what your favorite episodes are, where you guys listen, and definitely feel free to share this with a friend. I mean, part of how we break down the stigmas around these topics is by talking about them, right? And sharing them with more people. So definitely share the podcast. And again, really wanting to include all of you in this podcast. So if you have questions or you want to share a thought or an experience, please send in a voice memo to ask.letstalkaboutit@gmail.com. And I'm really excited to keep having these conversations and breaking down these stigmas. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk to you next time.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy Podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing whilst you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. Then cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy Podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy Podcast on your podcast app.